and how MDG coding is different compared to any other, programming techniques that we use in other modules of SAP. So generally, if we take the latest modules of SAP like SAP HCM, SAP TM, SAP PLM, or SAP GTS, these are all various other modules which have been recently introduced. When I say recently, maybe 8 years back or 7 years back, introduced by SAP, which will run on some frameworks. So any framework related development will will require certain APIs to be consumed to read or to post the data. Now, MDG frameworks runs on Genile in the combination of Genile and Bowl with an MDG abstract layer, which gives you a very minimal APIs to perform most of the general activities. When I say a minimal APIs, hardly we have 3 to 4 APIs in the form of class methods which are used to read the data and to post the data into a staging table. So for that, there are certain layers, certain APIs which will be responsible to those layers to read and to post the data. So there are some owners. We have MDG staging area, right? So this MDG staging area is responsible to hold the inactive data in reuse mode, inactive and active data in flex mode. So I would rather say now these two layers This layer is called as MDG. Abstract layer. What happens in this layer? This is the only one layer which is responsible to read and to post the data into MDG staging tables or connecting to ECC active area. This is one and only the available window to read, to post the active or inactive data. Between MDG staging and ECC tables. Hello. Someone has to move the loop. Yeah. So this MDG abstract layer will read the data and post the data into MDG staging table or ECC active area. Apart from this, this abstract layer cannot do any other things. So there might be some data inconsistencies. There might be some unauthorized data. There might be some validations which are missing. The data quality checks are not being performed by this abstract layer. Whatever the data that we pass to this abstract layer, that will directly posted into the respective tables without doing any consistency or data quality checks. That responsibility is not given to this MDG abstract layer. Then who will do that? That will be performed by MDG governance layer. Responsible to do data quality checks, authorization checks, data NQ checks, CR change request consistency checks. All these checks are being performed by governance layer. And then this governance layer will call the MDG abstract layer to post the data. But this governance layer will not understand the context to which change request the governance layer is performing the data quality checks, to which workflow template it is trying to trigger a workflow for it, to which UI this governance layer is providing those services. All that information is not available for the governance layer. That is something the context of the UI will be available for the context API layer. What does this context layer will understand? This will have the information UI application, data model, change request, workflow template, other details. All that information will be available to this context layer. So this context layer has to pass an information to governance layer saying, hey, you need to do the data saving for this data model, for this application, for this change request number. And then the governance layer will actually do the data quality checks, and it will call the abstract layer to post the data into the respective tables. And since there are various layers, as we discussed in our UI execution sequence, there is FPM layer, which will call bowl, which will call genile, which will call MDG abstract, or rather I would say, I'll show you that. So in this execution sequence, we discussed FPM UI will talk with the bowl will talk with genile, and genile will call with an MDG abstract layer. So here, we need to understand that it is not directly a MDG abstract layer which it will directly call by genile. Genile will call convenience. Convenience will call governance. Governance will call MDG abstract layer. So there are certain programming layers in between, which I did not mention when we are actually discussing this execution sequence. Right now we need to understand that it is not directly genile will call with an MDG abstract layer. If it does, then the data quality checks would not perform. And hence that's the reason we are discussing now these layers where there would be a genile layer which will call convenience API. Sorry, convenience layer. So what is this convenience layer will do? By definition, convenience layer does not have any features, but this layer provides, as per the name it says, this layer gives a convenience to call various context layer, governance layer, MDG abstract layer by providing some wrapper methods. Easy to call the programming layer. It provides the easiness. This is your connected to Janine. Easy to call various programming layers using this convenience layer. So the general will connect with convenience layer, and convenience will call context. Context will call governance. Governance will call MDG abstract. And MDG abstract will decide whether it's flex or reuse mode. Then it calls if it is reuse mode, it will call access class and then ECC. If it is flex mode, then directly it will be staging. Any questions on this?
Yeah, Karthik, just can just explain the genuine model. What is the purpose of genuine? I forget.
General layer. Okay. So this layer provides this layer will do two things. One, it has its own buffer. Let's say the user is entering some values before he save or before he submit the request. We need to validate the data, right? So he might be giving the data in between pages. He'll go to edit page, there he'll give some data and he'll come to the main page. So we need to validate the data across multiple pages. When he click save, before saving we need to do these validations. So for that, there will be a buffer. That buffer will be available in the general layer. Using that buffer, it will do some validations. This is one objective of general. And second, irrespective of the layer changes, let's say whatever the coding changed by abstract layer, let's say SAP has changed some coding in abstract layer, or they changed some coding in governance layer. They introduced new methods or new attributes of a method. That will not impact any of your FPM developments. General will provide a consistent interface where according to the backend code changes, there will not be any changes to the general. General will understand the backend coding changes and it will start communicating as per the latest adaptation. So it provides a consistent interface which will not have any impact on your foreground. It can be an FPM or it can be a UEFI application or it can be a web services, it can be anything. A foreground services which call general will not have any impact the backend coding changes in the convenience or context or governance or abstract layer.
Fine.
So I would just like to ask a question. Does MDG governance layer directly communicate with the database? Yes, no?
Kartik,
Yes.
is there a DIF data import framework through which we do that?
No, I didn't get that. DAF?
A data import framework through which we get the data from the ECC to govern.
No. Data import framework is something an initial load activity.
Okay. Do we cover this in this course? Data import framework.
Yes.
Okay.
So my question was, does MDG governance layer directly communicate with MDG staging tables?
I
Yes,
think
no?
it's yes. Yes.
Okay. Answer is no for this. As we discussed, it does not have any access to the staging tables, any database. It will just do the data quality checks, authorization checks or NQ checks. If it has to do any database update, it will communicate to MDG abstract layer. It will pass the information to abstract layer. Okay, so this is important for us to understand. Governance layer or context layer or convenience layer, no one can access the database. Only abstract layer can access the database.
Fine.
Okay, and does convenience layer do the data quality checks?
No, only governance layer will do.
Right. So there are some methods available in convenience layer, but that methods will again call the governance layer. By default, convenience layer does not have any logic to do the data quality. So what it does is all these layer will do the friendship between each layers. Let's say if governance layer wants to trigger a workflow, it will talk to the workflow. MDG governance layer will not actually trigger any workflows, will not do any workflow routing. It will trigger the workflow API as per the need. MDG governance layer will initiate the new change request. It will create the new change request, but actual creation of change request will happen with the change request API. So MDG governance layer will trigger the change request API to generate a new change request number. But in principle, how many layers we will be actually using? All these layers we don't use it explicitly. We will either use the convenience API or we'll either use the governance layer in our programming. These are not exposed outside for the developments. So to understand in detail, SAP has released the programming guide for MDG, in which we can see the life cycle, various APIs available, change request API, and we need to understand one more thing here. In EHP6 itself, the change request API has been defined as final version. That means there are no further developments. And governance API has come up with some developments. Governance API come up with some developments. Eventually, when the versions are getting increased, MDG 7.0, there are few developments. Now, when MDG 8.0 has come, there is no further development in context API. The context API changes were finalized in MDG 7.0. There is something called edition management with the context API has went through with some changes by SAP. But coming to MDG 8.0 onwards, there are no further developments for governance or convenience or context or external APIs. 9.0 no. Yeah, 8.0 there is something called hierarchy maintenance which SAP has introduced but not much useful. But still, MDG 9.0 there is no further development. This is something that we need to understand. Even in future, there would not be any further developments in this app, in this core APIs. Yeah, this is something important for us to understand the life cycle of these various API layers. Yeah. If you understand this diagram, application means an FPM application is directly talking with convenience API. This is what this sequence diagram is telling us. But if we look at the list of steps that we are discussing, this is the UI application. Is it directly calling the convenience layer? No. FPM is calling bool and bool is calling general. From general it is going to convenience layer. From convenience it is going to governance layer. From governance it is going to context and further APIs. So when there is a request for a new master data or new change, new request or existing changes, it will create an instance of convenience API. Then that convenience API will create an instance of governance API. Then it comes back. Now there is a concept called instantiation. Here it says optional. In case component usage of a communicator class is not done, then we need to do this as an explicit coding. Can anyone recall what is this component usage of communicator class? Did we ever discuss about this communicator class? Can you recall? We did the communicator settings, right? In UA modeling, manage UA configurations. You can say there is something called communicator status. So this communicator status, if this is not enabled, if this is not in green color, then someone has to do this set environment initialize context get context attributes as an explicit coding. Because our application which has that communicator settings will generate the change request number, and that change request number will be automatically initialize this context. Else we need to generate the change request number and we need to set the environment saying, hey, this is the new CR number which has been generated for the new for the data model and entity with the key fields, and then automatically the change request will be logged. So this is an optional step. And there is a loop which has to be developed for each and every entity part of MDG. For all type 1 and type 4 entities, we need to loop this
Hello.
list of steps. Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, Karthik. Actually, in manage UI, some red color and green color checkbox is there. So which one is red color is not working or what? If I choose that UI and go for configuration,
If we choose the red color one,
can
it
you
would
go to that
require,
screen? If I choose suppose red color application, then it's not working or what?
it will not have the change request UIBB.
Okay.
Okay. If the change request UIBB is not there, then you would require to do this coding in the backend.
Okay.
Yeah. In the application that is not the scenario.
Then where you have to do coding?
In the backend programming, we need to go to an FPM UI application feeder class. In the feeder class, we need to do all this coding.
Okay, that means to say if all which one is red, you have to go for programming.
Correct.
To write.
Correct.
Whichever checkbox is red color, we need it's compulsory. You have to go for a program.
Correct. Or you can convert that into green color by adding a communicator setting.
By communicator setting. Where?
We did this right in the previous exercise. If something is in red color, we can actually go to the details. And here we can add a change request wire. Right? So this exercise we have done when we are discussing the custom UI application, which will automatically turn the red color into green one.
So it is not working for every red color. So if I go through it and turn into green, then why go for coding?
Not required.
In what case I have to go back and coding, because I can go to that and change to green. Okay.
Right.
But
No,
in
there
which case?
are other scenarios. I'll discuss the scenario.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Now we need to create some data references which will generate the internal tables, or which will generate the containers as per the staging table. and then we need to log the records, enqueue the entity, and then we'll create a change request, and then we'll write the data. So all these things, I have a sample program. This document also have the coding. They have taken their S-Flight scenario as an example. I have taken one of our data model, which is created in our exercise. So all this coding is there in this document itself, but I'll quickly run through in the debugging mode to see how this programming will work. Now, as you rightly asked, what could be the scenario that someone will go for a development? Now, the scenario can be, let's say some IDOC is coming from interface, some interface is coming from SAP application or non-SAP application, and it is trying to create a new material in your system, or it is trying to create a new vendor or new customer in your system, which is not an ideal scenario when you implement MDG, right? The ideal scenario when you implement MDG is any new master data creation or changes should happen through MDG. So you would require to do some piece of code that IDOC will not directly create the material in your system, but it will generate the change request into MDG. That would be one requirement for you to develop this piece of code. Or there might be an Excel. In the Excel there are multiple records. For each let's say in an Excel there might be some fields like material, number, description, type, group, unit of measure, plant, storage location, etc. So you have all materials here available, and you need to generate a change request for each and every material number available here. So it's kind of a mass upload program which you wanted to develop. For that again you would require this coding. And someone is trying to develop a custom, in case in your project scenarios, in case if someone is trying to create a custom Fiori application, they would require this coding. These are pretty much common scenarios where we'll come across doing a manual database update. Now there is a data model called YE. In this data model, these are the two entities, Mara and Marcy. And it has 10 records. Now I would like to insert one more record, which is AT-ATT08 is a new material number which I would like to insert into this staging table. So I'm giving that material number. and would like to execute this program, and I will show you in the debugging what happens. I'm taking the data model name, which is YE from the UI, and creating a governance instance. I created a governance instance for this. Now I wanted to get the internal table structure for Mara entity. So I'm passing create data reference with Mara entity. But I want only key fields because this structure I wanted to use to log the key records. Only for logging purpose I wanted the key records. So I'm passing Mara entity and I'm saying I want only key structure. IV structure name. For this I'm passing I want only key structure, KY. Then system will generate me a structure which will have key fields of my entity. So what is the key field? MAT number, MATNR is a key field. So it has only one key field. Then I want to create a data reference for entire entity because I want to save the data. It is not only key record, key attributes, but key plus non-key attributes I want. So I'm calling create data reference for Mara entity and I'm saying key plus attribute KATTR. Then I'll get a structure related to complete entity. It got all the attributes of an entity. Same method I'm calling two times, but I'm changing the structure name. And then I'm filling the data of this into the structures from UI. So finally, if you see Mara key internal table and Mara data internal table, there are two different internal tables in which the Mara key will have only key field number and the Mara data will have the key field along with the attributes from a UI. So I have the relevant structures and the data available in the structures. Now what is required for me to save the data into the database? I would require to generate a change request because CR number is mandatory to do any changes to the master data object. So I'm calling a method called create change request. It has generated me a change request number 2833. So I need to log the change request along with, against my user ID. I include the change request by passing the CR number. And now I need to link the change request with the material number TATT08. I need to link both of them. So that's where I'm enqueuing the entity along with the CR number and the key attribute.
Hi Karthik. Actually, I am functional, so I'm not able to follow anything. What uh, what I should do here? Like, what is my role? Is this required for me also?
No, the function is not required. This is not required for functional. But if you can understand, it would be better, but not required.
Okay.
Hello, Karthik.
Yeah. Hello.
Karthik, what was that dump for? I mean, like, why that dump came?
The dump came because of the access class inconsistency. This was actually developed in a flex mode, but someone has given a uh, reuse access class to it, which has an inconsistency. So that's why I'm removing it.
Yeah, so I mean, like that information you were able to find out from the dump itself, or like based on your experience, you could find out. Like, how do we know that this is the case?
From the dump you can identify it. I'll show you.
Yeah, yeah.
Now if you can see, this statements is the current program so and so class has to be terminated because it has come across a statement which is unfortunately cannot be executed. So USMD PP accesses something called an access class, right?
Yes.
And this is also giving the access class name jetseal underscore material underscore access class.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And if you actually choose the source code where exactly it got a dump, create object LOPP access class, and this is the class name. Now let me open this. This will have the access class name. It try to instantiate it. See, this has the value which is my access class name. So it has tried to instantiate it, but because of the inconsistency, it got dumped.
Okay, Karthik. Yeah, understood.
Yeah. Now there is no separate insert or update or modify related statements. We have only one method called write entity method, which will automatically take care of whether it is an insert or whether it is a modifier or update internally. What we need to do is we need to just pass the change request information to this. What is the CR number and what is the entity and what is the entity data. So we are passing all this information, and then we have check change request data. So we have check button on the top of every MDG application, right? So the check button is nothing but it will come and execute this method, check change request data, which will do the data consistency checks. Now we have save. We have save button in MDG UI. That save button will come and call this save method of governance API. Then once the save is completed, we have dequeued the logged records. Now let me open the staging tables, refresh. Now, still, at this point, we did not see any new record has been added. But the moment I do commit work, I can see that there will be a new record which should be appended to this. That means which using this programming, we have created a change request, and the change request ID is 2834. And these are the tables important which I will be showing you now. USMD 120C, which gives the details of the change request. What is the type of a CR? What is the status of the CR? Description, the create and change logs, who have created it. So in this change request table, we saw that the change request has been created, and there will be a locking table. USMD 1213. So sometimes you might need to identify the CR number based on the material. Sometimes based on the CR you need to find the material. So how do you do it? You either give the CR number here and execute, which will give you the material number, or you give the material number and identify the CR number from the material. So this is having a link between the change request and the master data object. This table is important for us to remember USMD 1213 to get the link between the CR and the master data objects. Any questions in this?
Karthik,
Mm-hmm.
see, this program is to initiate the change request, right?
Not only initiating the change request, initiate the change request and save the records in the database.
So what about the workflow approval process? That is not required here.
So workflow, see, it has start workflow method. You just give the CR number to this and start workflow, it will trigger the workflow.
Okay. So staging area is holding inactive data, right?
Correct.
So what is the exact usage of this kind of programming, or this program you are running here? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So in real time, so what users will use this kind of program, or backend we will trigger this to somewhere else. This kind of logic we will write, and we have to use this program into somewhere else. We want to link.
So now we have went through this program, right, the list of steps. The standard MDG application, any standard MDG application has to call the same methods what we have called now.
Okay.
Okay. In some scenario, you might require to do some debugging, right?
Right.
You don't know where to start because it's an FPM application connected with various layers. It is not a good idea for us to start debugging from, FPM or BOL or general layers. We need to start our analysis with the closest area where we are trying to identify something, right?
Right.
Let's say if you are getting a, if you are missing the data which is available in ECC and we are reading the data which is missing in MDG, then you will put a breakpoint in read entity method. We have write entity here. Similarly, we have one more method called read entity.
Okay.
There is something called derive entity, which will derive the entity attributes based on certain rules or certain validations which we will be maintaining. Last step question. So you have change attachment, change nodes, check change request data. As I said, read entity. So in this read entity, you put a breakpoint and it will start giving you the values here. Let's say if you are missing the values here, again you will do the root level analysis by going the list of methods which are available here. Now this is an abstract layer, above model read char value. In this, based on the structures source, it will go to either staging area or ACC. Just a moment. Yeah. As I told you, you might generally come across this kind of programming in IDOC interfaces. Most of the implementation projects need this programming to route the IDOC interfaces via MDG. Or if any Fiori applications are there, it's very rare. If any Fiori applications are there, where you have extended a new entity, you would come across this coding. Because in FPM application, adding a new entity will automatically capture all the relevant backend configurations because there is general available. But for FPM, but for UI there is no general available. So we have to do this coding. Now I'll start discussing the validations and derivations, the data quality checks, and such options available. This is something part of the data quality and such. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So now I will be talking about search and duplicate checks. Now here we are seeing database search.
Karthik, one doubt I have.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, please go ahead. Hello?
Karthik, the Z program you showed to insert the entry into the Mara table. So in that Z program, at the end you had written that if everything goes fine, like after the commit work, you have given the workflow part. But generally the workflow after submit only it gets triggered, right? Like which will enable the new entry to be entered into the table.
Correct.
So in this case, the workflow should come before in the program, or like how?
So that depends on an action. So generally we'll capture
What kind of action? I mean, like
see when you trigger the workflow, as you rightly said, the moment you click on submit, then you need to trigger a workflow, right?
yes.
So in my scenario, I did not have any action on a UI. I just had execute. So by default, my program says the moment you have the data, it will create a change request and trigger a workflow is what my program assumption is. But having said that, if you had two buttons here instead of execute, you have save and you have submit. I would have write a logic inside. If user clicks on submit, then I do all these changes and save the record. Only then based on that action I would have started this workflow based on user action. But
Okay,
since I
action
don't
on the selection screen.
action exactly action on the selection screen.
Okay, I got it now. Yeah.
So we have various such options available. Address search, DB search, enterprise search, HANA search, remote key search. So I would suggest do not get into this address search details. This is only specific to business partner, domain specific search technique. This is not generic one which you can reuse across the solutions. You cannot do that. So let's park it and we'll focus on the standard search modes, which is DB, enterprise and HANA. Any idea why SAP has provided three different search modes or the functionality of each search mode? Did you come across some blogs or some discussions about the search modes? No?
Yeah, that enterprise search, data quality search, I read.
Mhm. So we have these points to be understand based on each such functionality available. So the database search, let's talk about the prerequisites. The database search, it can run on HANA and non-HANA database platforms. There is no dependency based on the database for database search. And enterprise search cannot work until and unless if we install the truck signal. When we say trucks, text repository extraction tool. So this has a separate software licenses. It's a separate product of SAP. We need to purchase this license of this trucks and start building the communicators and integrate with MDG. And we have HANA Search, which will work only for HANA database. For ECC, it won't work. And we have Fuzzy Search, which is the feature which comes wherever the database storage is based on the columns but not on the rows. We all know that there is a column store in HANA. So it will provide a fuzzy search, fuzziness of a specific record. And Trex also stores the record in the column way. So for that, it provides a fuzzy search. And database search is only based on the rows. Because there is no column store for a database. It is a row store. So fuzzy search will be applicable wherever there is a column store, and hence it is enterprise search and HANA search which provides this functionality. In score ranking is some functionality. So what is the closest score that the fuzziness has built? Now, you need to understand what is the fuzzy search. Generally, if you wanted to get the list of material which has electrical in the description, how do we search for it?
With star, asterisk.
Right. Electrical, motor, electrical winder, electrical generator. We would say electric star, then automatically it will bring all these 4 records, right? Now let's say if I miss A or E, both of these characters in my search tree, and give star, will I get these 4 records based on this search?
Maybe no.
No, it's definitely not possible. Because technically this record is unique, different compared to the other records. But if we implement, if fuzzy search is implemented, Then you would get the list of records which matches to the string. This is something called fuzzy search. Now what is the closest score? It's something, more likely 98 or 99% safe. Just there are two type errors, two characters which are missing. So this score ranking is only possible for HANA search. It is not possible for database search or enterprise search. Okay, and duplicate check is possible in 3 different search. Database search it is possible, enterprise search possible, HANA search is also possible. While identifying the potential duplicates, can it implement fuzziness? Is a question. Database, it cannot implement fuzziness. Enterprise search, it will implement the fuzziness, but you cannot switch out the fuzziness. HANA search, yes, you can switch on and switch out the fuzziness in the duplicate search. And long text is not part of database search for potential duplicates. Enterprise search and HANA search both are part of identifying duplicates based on the long text. And one of the major important point is extensibility with fields. To extend custom fields in the database search, it would require at least 50 hours. But the same thing if you want to do that in extensibility for the fields, if you are doing for the enterprise search, it has very high efforts. And if you are doing for HANA search, it has very low efforts. Because enterprise search requires a connector enhancements, and it's a different software. You have to do again data modeling. Enterprise search has some modeling concepts. You have to do that enhancements. So the ETA for enhancing custom fields for enterprise search is very high. Database search and HANA search, the efforts are very low. These are the high-level points that we need to understand between the differences of each search technique. Any questions?
Hello, Karthik.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, Karthik.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Actually, in previous slide you show if it is say 50% or 60%, it will be showing. Okay. So how can system know? Okay, if the 80% is matches, then it will be duplicate. If it is 50% is matches, it should be duplicate. How you can control this? Or if it is 100% matches, then only it's showing duplicate. This concept.
Yeah. So 100% match showing the duplicate is not a fuzzy search thing. Of course, if there might be a record which matches 100%, then it will show. Even if there is a slight variation because of the type error, it should show up the records. That's what the objective of fuzziness, right? So, how? And let's say if the percentage matches is less than 30% or more, between 30 to 70%, only then you need to identify duplicates. All these things are configurable. That we'll discuss when we are doing the duplicate check configuration.
Oh, where that one?
I'll show you. But the score calculation is done by the program. It has some internal algorithm. Based on that, it will do. Here the threshold values will maintain here. Lower threshold 30 and higher threshold 70. But anyways, I would not like to jump directly into that because it has certain configurations before that we need to do. I'll do those configurations now and I'll show you that. But before I get into this configurations, any questions on this, such topics?
Karthik, can you go for database search on Fuji search? Means can you assign two search to one particular?
No, for one, you cannot assign
For
both.
one search for one
No,
material,
because,
okay, for vendor. I
no,
want both search.
no, it's not possible.
Not possible?
No. The search is assigned at the data model level.
Okay.
So once you assign one database search, then it is a database search. And you cannot have two searches available for a same data model.
Okay.
But I just want to understand, why do you need two searches? Do you have any example or scenario?
Is possible or not? Means if required or something.
Okay. It is not possible. Okay. And enterprise search is marked as absolute in HANA versions. In HANA, enterprise search is not working. There is no need for enterprise search because the intention of introducing enterprise search is only to do the fuzziness. When there is no HANA database, when there is no concept of HANA, then SAP MDG has introduced enterprise search. Then after SAP HANA evaluation has come up, then they have marked it as absolute because HANA by default it is providing a fuzzy search from the CDS views.
Karthik, for enterprise search, there is no score ranking available, but fuzzy search is available. So
Correct.
how to determine which record should be matched?
Sorry, how to determine?
I mean, if there is no score ranking, how will you determine which record is closest for the matching?
No, it will show you the list of records as well. List of identified duplicate, not duplicate, the closest records, and it will it will show you the ranking. So in enterprise search, it will not show you ranking. It will show you always 100%. But it will show you the closest records for it.
Okay.
So using the you will understand how many number of records, or what are the records are identified with the closest match. Okay, so let's move on to duplicate check configuration. Now system is not saying that there are any duplicates. When there are no errors found. But if we actually look at the record, you have multiple records with this name, right? So in search application, selecting the database search. Now there are some search applications, searches where we will be seeing BP address data. For this BP header is a type 1 entity. Now these searches will be delivered by the standard SAP itself. This is not something that we have to generate. It will be generated by the standard SAP. The moment they deliver the solution, in the solution they will propose all these search helps. Now in the database search, we will assign the data model called BP, and we are assigning a BP header as a type 1 entity. So here we are assigning a search mode. And again, these match profiles will also be generated by a MDG standard solution. So what this match profile will have, This match profile will have the list of fields using which you will do the duplicate check. City, house number. Using the postal code, they are identifying the duplicate check. So this is one template, and this is one template. Here we are saying based on the city, it will identify the duplicate. Here we'll assign the data
Karthik.
model.
Hello, hello, Karthik.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Yeah, actually, I have one doubt. Suppose for my custom UI application, I don't want the city to be included in duplicate checks.
Mm-hmm.
So suppose if I delete from data model level, then it will be working for all UI application. Okay. So, but I want only for my custom application that city is not included in duplicate checks. So how can you do it? How can I achieve?
So you go to this search application.
Okay.
You go to the match profile. You will select the
Okay.
template, and here you will say remove exclude attribute.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now I'm
Okay.
having the
So in this
duplicate check based on name one. Okay.
uh,
Now let me refresh. So now system is saying there is a duplicate check. It is showing, it is prompting you the pop-up saying this is the duplicate record. Do you want it to go with the duplicate record, or do you want to continue with the existing record? If you want to go with the existing record, so switch to duplicate. So you will access this record. Or you have some reasons you still want to go with the new record, say continue.
that is means duplicate. That means to duplicate check is working. Okay.
Right.
But if I don't want duplicate checks, then I have to.
Now the duplicate check right now working is based on only the name one, not on the city name, right?
Okay. 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 Yes, yes. City is not duplicate check. Okay, I got it. Okay, okay, okay.
Now I'm saying check. just for the sake of argument, I'll remove this city. System still says there are potential duplicates, even though there is no city, right? Now what I'll do, I'll go to relevant fields. I will say city is also mandatory. Now system says duplicate check not possible because required fields name one and last names are not filled. I'll say Karthik. Now we did not get the duplicate check because there are no duplicates with the city. Now if you look at this, we made city is also one of the mandatory attribute to identify the duplicates. Now I remove the city and click on check. System says duplicate check not possible. Required fields, city is not filled. Now Berlin is something which we are saying a city name for this Karthik. Earlier there was Karthik which was coming as a duplicate. Now now Karthik is not coming in a duplicate because earlier city was different and current city was different. So it is not a duplicate record now. So if we are adding one or two fields, then it will work as a compound. It is not like OR condition, it's a compound condition. Alright, any questions?
So, Karthik, so which sequence that search will be? How system know first will be search name, then city, or first will be search city, then name? What is the sequence?
By default, it will be alphabetical sequence. But if you wanted to give
comes again?
a sequence, by default, it will be entity and attribute alphabetical sequence in ascending order. But if you want to give us sequence, instead of sequence, here you have an option called sequence 1, 2, If I give the sequence, it will follow the sequence. Okay. And there is something called weightage. See, in this example, there should be a high weightage, say 60% of weightage to the city and 40% of weightage to the name. Because see, identifying Karthik, which is universe across the world, is very expensive select statement in the database. Let's say you got 100,000 records, not like 100,000. Let's say you need to fill query 100,000 records to identify Karthik. There might be 10 duplicates. For that, you need to scan 100,000 records, and then you take that Karthik and find the list of cities which are common. Now, the number of records will come down from 100,000 records to say 1,000 records. So instead of doing this, first you identify the city. City is a global attribute. First you identify the list of cities for Karthik, and then you come to the name one for doing a search. To make it simple example, identify Karthik in Bangalore is easier compared to identify Karthik in across the world, right? So that's what this weightage will give a preference. First it will give a preference to city field, not like preference, it will give the weightage to the city field in identifying the potential duplicates.
But Karthik, you give sequence too. So how can it fast wait to city? If if you select sequence two.
See, that's what I'm saying. Sequence is different from giving weightage.
Okay.
Sequence is something, I'll tell you this example. Now this is sequence 1 and this is sequence 2 is what we are saying. Okay, there is now you tell me in this 4 records which are the 2 potential duplicates.
First and last.
First and last, because here the weightage is given for city. Let me give one more. If the weightage is given 60 and 40, what system will do is, first it will try to filter the duplicate cities. Okay, it identified duplicate cities and then we are given 40% weightage for the name. So in this name, it will try to identify which are the duplicate. These two will be duplicate. Now you might be given sequence 2 for name 1 and sequence 1 for, this is something which is at the database query level. But this is something which is identifying a weightage, is something which is identifying a potential duplicate level. And the recommended practice is always, as per the weightage, you need to give the sequence. If the weightage is more, then it should be starting with the sequence 1. And they should go with the sequence 2. This is the best practice.
Okay.
Karthik, in this database search, is anything possible to do the customizing, means writing the code is possible, or only this is the only method?
Correct. So I'll tell you this thing. Now, this is not something like in the relevant fields. We cannot add whatever the fields that we like. We cannot add like that. Okay. So
Fine.
identifying duplicate is something like, you do a select statement. In the select statement, you will get the list of fields, right? The select statement requires the list of fields to be selected and where condition to be found. So SAP has already developed a select statement which has all these fields.
Okay.
So only these fields can be used in the duplicate check. If you wanted to add one more field here, you need to enhance the select statement in the coding also. I'll show you that.
This class is common for search or all the place, or
Common. This is common.
just can you ping this class name to chat so that I can store it in my notes for future reference purpose?
This class, okay, this access class, this is an access class, right? I'll get it from the data model, right?
Oh,
Any communication to the ECC is through access class.
fine, I got it.
Yeah.
Karthik, one general doubt I have. I mean, like, how to identify like which classes or like which methods we need to use to write the code?
Okay, there are only a few methods for us to do the development. So one is something that which I have shown you in the previous topic, right? Write data and read data. And apart from that, there is something called solution specific classes, which a BP developer from SAP has given some access class and handler class for the BP concept. This is something which we need to read the document and they'll give the 5 methods which has to be implemented. This anyways I am going to discuss. I'll be discussing that as well.
Okay.
Right, now if you see this query, AD postal is an entity. This will match with this entity. So in this entity type for the duplicate check, you can give the attributes either the city one or CO name or city code, district, Slack groups, home city. You can give the attributes any one of the following available. Because all these things are part of coding. And finally they'll do the duplicate check here. They'll go to the business partner number, the select statement, and they'll do a duplicate check here. So in case if you wanted to add one more entity or one more attribute here, what you need to do is you need to come to this method and do enhancement. You're asking the same question? It was Rajendra, right?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So this is something which is at the database search level. But for HANA search, you don't require to do any coding because the select statements for database search is static. Someone will write a select statement and
To identify 5 or 6 duplicate records already existing. He wants to remove all the duplicate records from database. So what is the process to remove the duplicate record? In MDG screen itself, you have to choose the record and you have to use delete or any other method is there.
good question. If there are some duplicates in the system, before you do MDG implementation, right?
Yes.
There is a practice that the cleansing of the existing records has to happen before you start MDG implementation. Okay? The database cleansing will be happen manually. There will be some cleansing exercise which happens. In the cleansing exercise, they will identify the potential duplicates and they will take a call whether the duplicate should be marked for delete or they want to keep it as it is. Then they will mark for delete and then they remove they will never delete the record, they will just mark it for delete. And then when you start working on MDG application, then you would not see any duplicates, because the moment you are trying to create a new duplicate, it is prompting you saying its existing record is available. Right? So before you do the MDG implementation, cleansing exercise will remove all the duplicates, and then you start using MDG application.
And the cleansing part is taking care we have to do, or already some other team will be taking care, or what is the process?
Cleansing is a different team. Cleansing will be performed by a different team.
So
Those are
before
called as data champions. Yeah.
so before we do any MDG action first time, we are supposed to ask them whether cleansing is happened or not, like that, for confirmation purpose.
Right.
Okay.
Now here, I have defaulted the name one. That means I did some derivation here. Okay. So here, my name 2 is coming based on name 1. Example, ABC Incorporation Private Limited. Click on enter, then automatically you can see name 2 is getting derived based on name 1. This is something called as derivation. Okay, how is this coming? Based on a rule that we maintain in the BADI. Name 2 is equals to name 1.
Hello, Karthik. I want to know one thing, how to debug that NWBC screen. Suppose if you submit something or check, it will be trigger some BADI, okay? Can you show it will be trigger those particular BADI by debugging that NWBC?
Right. So the violations which we are discussing is part of data quality and such. So here one of the violation I'll show you. So put the breakpoint. I just put the cursor there and set an external breakpoint. Click on enter, automatically the breakpoint has been started.
Karthik, what did you click on in the NWBC?
I did nothing. I click on enter.
Just enter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the fields in NWBC will, the moment you change the value, click on enter, it will start triggering the backend logic. Okay. Now I would like to put one more breakpoint on check entity. Which we can say such term 2 is not updated. I click on enter. Now it got a breakpoint here. So what I will do in the breakpoint, in this method I will get a ED underscore message. Right. So here now I got the third error saying search term 2 value missing. So this is called a validation. How to validate certain entity in MDG application using a piece of code. Can I did not write any logic, but what you will maximum do is you will get the CR number inside it. Let's say click on enter. You will get the change request number and you will also get the data. This is the data which user has given on the UI. You will read this data and you will get the CR number using which if you want to get any other data, any other entity data, you will get that information by calling the audience API, a read data method. You will get the data and you do the necessary validation. There are so many standard examples which are provided by SAP.
Karthik, what is that check 1 equals to 2 in that method?
This is something for me to write a statement which will never execute to hold the breakpoint here.
And Karthik, like in ABAP, we can start the debugging by /h. So in UI, there is no such facility, right? We have to know what method we must put the breakpoint, then only we can start debugging.
Correct. So hardly you will be having this two methods, check entity and derive entity. These are the two methods which you will be hardly implementing. Okay. And there are few barriers in the process modeling which you will implement. These are the 5 barriers which you will implement. So again, these details of each BADI, what you will do, when you will implement. We'll have a discussion on that. That's tomorrow we'll have a discussion on it. This is even important for the functional consultants to understand what is the scope of each body. Because in the functional interviews they'll ask what all body is implemented and what is the purpose of each body. Definitely there will be a question on this. So we'll discuss them tomorrow. But for today, let me know if you have any questions on the validations and derivations also. Any questions on the validations, derivations? Now this validation will be triggering for the data model and entity. So we will give the filter values. If we want different validations and derivations for a different entity, again we'll put a new filter, new implementation, and then we'll do the logic. So the filter for this is data model and entity name. Any questions? Okay, so if that's the case, we'll wind up the session today. And tomorrow we have to discuss the initial load concepts and the BADIs and solution specific, enhancements or the framework is something which we need to discuss, and troubleshooting as well.
Karthik, you will be Karthik, you will show some body examples tomorrow, no? Like what is the purpose of body and how to find out like the class and how to debug.
Right, we'll do that.
Karthik, one more point I want to discuss. I was going with the BRF.
Hello? Yeah, please.
I was going with the BRF. So just BRF, some conditions also I have seen that some condition also we can write. So are we going with that? Because you have shown us the workflow, like BRF, how to handle the workflow. But with the other examples where I have seen that BRF can be used for handling the conditions, for conditions also.
Validations and derivations you're talking?
Yes.
Yeah. So that we are not doing it.
That we are not.
Yeah. Reason, SAP stopped using it. Because what happens is, in the previous example, if you observed that, every action which I do here, right?
Yes.
Let's say if I change this control group, you notice that there is a backend program which is triggering.
Correct.
I did not even select any enter. The moment I change this, it will start triggering a backend logic. So there are hundreds of fields on a UI. For each change, it is trying to trigger the backend programming. And this program is not a small thing. If you are seeing the stack, I stopped in between. The stack right now it is at 43. It will go for 200 or 250 stack for each change which I do. Having said that, again going to a BRF plus application is a very consumable statement, high expensive consumable statement, because BRF is again a different framework, different application, which was drastically decreasing the performance of a MDG application execution. It is taking more than 2 seconds.
Okay.
So that's why SAP stopped using it. And even if you look at the BADIs, now all these BADIs have been developed by SAP itself. SAP is recommending to go and implement these BADIs.
Okay.
All these are standard implementation. SAP itself is using the same BADIs. This is one reason that why we are not going for that. And second reason, it has limitations. You can either give if the country code equals to this one, postal code should be this one. Postal code length should be this much. There are some validations which you can directly key in, but it cannot be a very dynamic validations that you can configure that in a BRF application, where you need the data from some select statements and then you do a validation. All those things are not possible.
Okay.
So for that, again, you have to come to the BADI and start implementing it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So if you want, you can still refer to this document. I'm giving you this document, validations and derivations using validation application. Okay. They will also have the same method, check entity and derive entity. Check underscore CAL is a check name.
Yeah, it will be helpful if you can able to share this.
I'll share this document. But
Yes.
trust me, do not implement this, which will drastically remove the performance of an application.
Yes, I got your point because yes, it will reduce. Okay.
Okay.
And Karthik, that video that you said you will be sharing, which that UI creation which had gone for a dump the first time, that we have not got till now.
Right. Sorry for that. There is a delay from my side only. I did not still share it. So this weekend I'll definitely do it and give it to you. I did not actually, prepare it.
Okay, Karthik, no problem. Yeah, we'll be waiting.
Okay, thank you. Let's catch up tomorrow.
Yeah, Karthik, one general question. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, regarding MDG certification, okay, there is a separate certification for functional or technical. Altogether, we have only one.
MDG certification has only one certification, which is associate. Okay. Which
Sorry, can you comment?
the general certification is at 2 levels.
Okay.
Generally, SAP certification will be two levels: associate level and expert level. Associate level means someone who has knowledge, theoretical knowledge, can go and crack the certification. They don't require a practical working experience. Like people will enroll a course in SAP, they will do a 5-day course and they'll start, giving a certification exam. And expert level is something that, people who will have minimum 2 to 3 years of experience, then they will go and do expert level certification. Generally, this is how the SAP will provide the certifications. For MDG, as of now, there is only one certification, which is the associate level. There is no expert level. And that certification is also based on MDG 9.0 version. Okay.
Okay.
That is purely from the functional perspective. There is no technical and the functional certification for MDG. That is purely functional perspective. And what do you expect in functional? What are the options which we are available in MDG, whatever we are going through? Those topics will be given in certificate.